All right, what's up, everyone? Hopefully, you're all doing amazing today. Wanted to come back on and start doing my streams again. I fell off track for a bit, but the way these usually work, I will go through the overall market. I'm losing my voice a little bit, unfortunately. We'll go through the overall market, then we'll kind of what's up, everyone? Hopefully, you're all doing amazing today. Then what we'll do is we'll go through coins. We will look at anything you all want me to look at. I'll show you what my watch list looks like. And ultimately, towards the end, once we get into the coins and the reviews and all that, what I want to do is set up what the entries would be and ultimately what I would do if I was going to jump into that. So that's what we'll focus on. If you have a coin or if you have something you want me to look at or review, drop it in the chat so I know that it's in there and then I will look on there and make it work. So to start, I haven't done a market update in a while, but where we're at in the crypto market, it's heated up quite a bit. Fear and greed index, it was heading in this area, and then we've been moving sideways, so it's been coming down a little bit. Typically what happens is the closer this gets to like being maxed out, the more likely it is we're going to see a big correction. So as it cools off, like we've been doing lately, it cools off quite a bit. We're still pretty greedy. We're just not like extremely greedy. And then down here is like extremely fearful. So in my opinion, it's like when we're down here is when you buy. When we're up here is when you kind of start taking profits. But in terms of where we've been at the last few weeks or so, it seems like the most popular things are Solana, BRC20, and then gaming right now, and AI quite a bit. When we look at some of the top performers in the last 7 days, we've got like Solana up 52%. BNB started heating up today. We've got AVAX has been one of the top performers this last quarter. Polkadot's been heating up. Polygon, a lot of these layer ones and a lot of these layer twos are starting to heat up quite a bit. Uni is breaking out of a serious range. I think that'll be a pretty good trade as soon as it really starts going. Near absolutely just went ballistic. So we've had a lot of alts go nuts. As BTC sits there and goes sideways, a lot of our altcoins start going absolutely bonkers. We've got Optimism up. We've got so many things doing well. We've got Stacks that's heating up quite a bit. Render today just started going nuts. So I think that's going to be another good trade. eGold gets zero love, but man, it's been a great coin. Algorand. So when you look at the market right now, if you just press the green button, you're probably going to do well. Phantom, Ordi. Phantom's another one that gets zero love, but actually does really well in terms of pumping with the other layer ones. Mina looks like it's going to be one of the top coins for this quarter, like quarter, we'll call it quarter one. We're not quite there yet, but so far, it seems like this one's going to be performing well. It's already going absolutely bonkers. We've got Axie Infinity that's been heating up quite a bit. It's kind of like sneaks under the radar. People give it zero love. Say's been heating up quite a bit. So we've got a lot of these layer ones that are really doing well. Something that I like to look at is we go into categories on CoinMarketCap and we can kind of see what ecosystems are doing well. So we've got like social tokens. You kind of scroll through and you can start to see like what's really heating up, what's doing super well, what's not doing super well, what hasn't done anything, and ultimately kind of start looking at what these ecosystems look like and what's in there. Like some of these are doing zero, but when we come up here, we're looking at like social tokens, some of these memes, the Say ecosystem has Say pumps. So it's a good way to come in here and really look. Then you can say, okay, Solana's been doing quite well. So, okay, what's in Solana? Well, we've got like Bonk, which is did do well. We've got Pyth, which hasn't really done much yet. It's an airdrop token. Usually airdrop tokens just bleed for a while because there's so many people with free tokens, JTO as well. Kind of makes it hard to trade those in the beginning. When we look down here, we start looking at like lower market cap coins. So we can start to see like the little micro caps inside of Sol that could potentially do well. So you've got like DeFi land. I think I bought a long time ago, but it's tiny. Who knows if it does well, but it's one of those gaming coins that's actually been consistently up. So you start looking at that. You start looking at Step Finance. People are using that because they're staking their Sol to get airdrops. You look at, let's see if we can find anything else. Now we're starting to get in the dumpster diving zone. So then we come up here, we're like, okay, BRC20 has been heating up. So Sats seems to be one of the top right now. Sats, Ordi went ballistic. You could probably anticipate Sats doing something similar pretty soon. OXBT hasn't really done much. Seems like it's one of the bigger coins, but it was another coin that was given everyone was giving free coins away. So who knows if it does well. And then you can kind of start going down and look at, okay, well, all of these are basically, oh, look, 27%. But then you can look at the market cap. These are tiny market caps. So you know that these can probably produce quite a bit of movement. We've got gaming that seems to be heating up quite well. And you can look at, okay, Immutable X is the leader. Render is actually pushing now. We've got Sandbox pushing. So as we move into gaming, we can see that the rotation right now seems to be leaning into gaming right now. Because when we have the top leaders of the whole area, you've got Immutable X, you've got Render, you've got Sandbox, you've got Axie Infinity, all doing really well. You start moving down, you're like, okay, Decentraland's doing well, Beam's done incredibly well, Gala's moving. So now you can start to anticipate and say, okay, well, if all of the top gaming coins here are doing quite well, then we can probably anticipate there's going to be a rotation into the micro cap gaming coins down here. So then we can say, okay, wow, it's already happening. Magic, boom. It's only at 295 million market cap. It's up 40%. We've got Bake, which is I think it's like a Binance Smart Chain token. I don't think it's a game, but it's up an incredible amount. We've got a lot of these infrastructure tokens. We've got Vulcan Forge, 40% up. So we've got a lot of these that are actually doing quite well. Hook Protocol, Yield Guild Games, YGG. So you can start to see that the rotation is coming into gaming. And a lot of these games, like My Neighbor Alice, we bought that a while back. We've got Gods that's been doing well. Star Atlas is moving. Shrapnel starting to move. So you can start to see that the rotation here is actually happening quite well as you start moving down. Now we're in the 70 million market cap zone. So it's like, okay, Mines of Delarnia moving 27% up. And a lot of these are breaking out of like long-term patterns where they've been stuck for over a year. So these could end up being pretty violent breakouts. So that's one way that I kind of like to look around. Something I'll do is I'll find what's trending and then I'll go in there and I'll see like what the top coins are doing. Are they trending or are they dying? And then I'll scroll down and see what like the $10 million market cap, the 1 million, what are they doing? And then ultimately find some really good gems. But when we look over here at let me check what's up, Andrew? Welcome to the broadcast. Keep dropping your coins down below. There's a few of you watching, so that way I know you're here and then I can actually go through them. Let's go through what the market actually looks like. So it's been a great market all around. When I look at just the overall market, you look at like NASDAQ, we're making new highs. We're just absolutely crushing it in the stock market and all that stuff. So when we look at the stock market, it's just been up only. It's almost better than what Bitcoin looks like. At first, we were worried that we had this high and this lower high. Then we came down and we just rocketed. We literally I've never seen anything like this. So we just bounced and bounced and bounced. There was no stopping it. The thing's just been up only. And so now it's at a point to where we're creating these new highs. We look at SPX, same thing. It's matching. It's high right now. It's about to cross. Look at SPY, pretty much follow the same pattern, same thing, QQQ. So a lot of these, you could probably anticipate some sort of correction coming up because of how hot this has been. It's just been absolutely insane in that ride up. But on the process of going up, we've seen the dollar kind of plummet along the way, which is why it's ultimately been driving up. And it's been a really good market in stocks. So for me, when I look at kind of stocks that I like to create positions in, I've had a lot of like uranium was great. We've come into gold. Tesla's finally breaking out. AMD's been on a tear. Coin is just absolutely ballistic. I think I started buying it down here in not the 30s, like the 80s. We got Marathon that's breaking out. There's so many things here that have been doing really well. Hood is on a tear. Looks like Hood might be heading towards the $13 range. Hood might end up if we clear 13, we're probably pushed to like 15. Hood has been great. Rivian's finally starting to break out. We've got American Airlines that's great. Everything's moving in stocks, PayPal, fuel cell. And when we move over to crypto, before we get into crypto, one thing to look at is like the crypto miners are really starting to break out. So we've got like HUT. You notice like we're on the weekly chart. So we've got the weekly 200 EMA. So the green line, the 100. So we're clearing it. Once we clear this, it's blue skies. So then it's time. Like here, it was a failure, but here, if it clears and it moves, it's going to move quite violently. All of these will. So we've got HUT 8, we've got CIFR clearing it. We've got Hive clearing it. So these miners are really in really good positions to move and to move well. And sometimes they outperform Bitcoin. We've got Wolf. That's probably the laggard. It's going to clear here, or if it holds here, then it pushes, then it pushes. I mean, we're just going to start lapping EMA bands. Marathon's already done it. Riot's already on the way up. Clean Spark, all the miners seem to be in a really good position. They've been performing probably better than Bitcoin as they move through. So that's something to really pay attention to. The miners, they don't get a lot of love sometimes, but man, they can be great performers in this market. For me, I bought every one of these. Like I have positions in all of them because they're just, I mean, look at this 23% up on the day for a stock. That's incredible. You can buy options and basically you're looking at 100x leverage on that with an option. So something to think about in all of these. When we look at the crypto market itself, we look at Bitcoin dominance. It's kind of been trending down because Bitcoin's been basically sideways and also been coming up. So it's obvious that this would trend down. We look at the ETH Bitcoin chart. It's still kind of on the way down. The reason being ETH hasn't really moved. ETH hasn't done anything. It's doing what it always does. So when we look up here in the Bitcoin index on the weekly, we basically just sat here between like 41 and like 43. That's like our range for right now. It's pretty much all we do is we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, and we go up, and that's it. Until we break this zone, it's kind of hard to really do anything with Bitcoin itself. If I would anticipate if we did lose this zone, we'd probably come back down here to where the weekly trend is here. Same thing with when we come out of the weekly and we start looking at the daily, it's the same story. It's just we're up at resistance, we're down. We're up near resistance, we're down. We're up at resistance, we're down. It's the same thing over and over and over again until Bitcoin finds a way to break out. So the way to play this with alts is we break, we get stuck. Sell your positions, break, we get stuck. Push, buy into positions, get stuck. Dump, buy new positions, you just keep doing it. Alts will pump and then they'll dump a little. Then they'll pump, then they'll dump a little. But their moves are much more exaggerated. So you can get a ton of value out of Bitcoin's little move here out of any of the alts. Similar case with ETH. It hasn't really done it. The thing about ETH is typically what'll happen is ETH will sit there sideways for the entire time. And then all of a sudden it'll just teleport to like 10K. Not saying that it's going to teleport to 10K, but all of a sudden it'll just teleport straight up. It just moves in one clean line. And so that's what I'm kind of anticipating to happen to ETH eventually. I think it may not happen till like February. I would imagine Bitcoin peaks out first and then ETH peaks out first. Then maybe we have a little correction phase. But for me, ETH, same thing. It's push 2357, dump. Push, same thing, dump. It's doing the exact same thing as Bitcoin. And ETH just hasn't broke out yet. And like I said, with the way ETH moves, I don't anticipate it really, it's not going to do anything. And then once it does, once everybody gives up on it, all of a sudden ETH will be 5K. Nobody will have any idea how it happened. And they'll cry and complain that they didn't get in on it, but because everybody gives up on it. So I think ETH is not in a bad position. It's just not really doing anything. So people get bored. So you probably delayed, but NQ is about, yeah, we're right there. I think I was using, let's go over here, futures. NQ's crushing it. It's absolutely insane. Wild. What a day. What a market. I've never seen a market just literally like hit bottom and then just bounce and bounce and bounce. There was no stopping it. It was absolutely out of control. Everybody was waiting for. What's funny about this market is we dumped and then everybody was like, oh, it's not a real pump. It's not a real pump. It'll go down. It'll go down. Just wait for it to go down. Oh, it went down. The bears are right. This is just a false confidence pump. Yep, we're finally going down. Oh, and then the bears lost the entire way up. And there was people saying that short the market, 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 short the market. And that short never came. And so one thing I think you have to remember in this kind of industry or in this kind of place here is you have to remember that no matter what people are saying, typically the opposite will happen. So as we started to peak out, especially right here, where we saw the weekly RSI bounce off the 50 and then just start rapid pacing right back up, that was your indicator right here. It's like beautiful reset. You didn't even have to buy this giant God candle. You could have said, okay, reset. And then right here, all right, oh, with that beautiful reset, we're in a good place. And so, and it never even came back and touched on the weekly. We got a few touches on the daily that were helpful, but overall, it was just a magical run. So we had the peak, we had one touch, which could have been a buy-in, and then it was gone after that. So then when we look into crypto, what I'm kind of looking at right now that I've added to my watch list for the moment, say I think is I'm you kind of be careful with this. There's a lot of influencers calling it. And when influencers call it, typically what happens is it'll come up and then magically teleport straight back down. So I kind of want to be careful with jumping into this just because I see so many influencers calling it. Sometimes that ends up being a really big pump and dump. So, and I think it's a good coin and I think it's a good protocol. You just want to be careful when a lot of influencers really start backing it. That people are horrible in this industry and they'll absolutely destroy you just for their own profit. So you want to be careful with that. But if I was looking for positions in these, before we go into that, I mean, it had a nice little bounce off the RSI 50 and then we pushed, came back, essentially double bottom here, quote unquote, and then started in this next rocketing phase. Render is another one that just started really going. Notice how Render was basically stuck between 440 and 414. One of my favorite ways to play these things is just play the consolidation. So as we can see, we pushed, fell back in the channel, and then we just kind of got stuck here for a while. So you just play this consolidation, and the consolidation was happening off the daily. It would come up, we touched, and then came up, touched until it finally wins. So it was just a nice little consolidation that basically moved sideways, allowed the EMA bands to catch up, and then all of a sudden it rocketed. So I really like how Render looks. I think TRB looks really good. I think Matic looks good. I called this in the dude server, or I bought some and told everyone I bought some in the dude server. I think my average is like 30 cents because I bought at the depths of the bear market. But for dudes, I think we grabbed some somewhere around 91, 90, and we're at a dollar now. And what happens with Matic, we're just under this EMA band. So we're just under the EMA 200 on the weekly, which is huge. Like if we can clear this, and we can push above. Notice how it stopped just below it. Notice what'll happen is we'll push, probably retest. This could be a multi-week trade. But once that clears, that gives us the opportunity for a nice God candle that probably puts us somewhere in the like 110 to 120 zone. And if we can clear that zone, I think it gives us the opportunity to push to 128. Then we have like the 147. And then we're in blue skies territory after that. So I do think it looks really good in terms of where it's headed. STX, another one I like. Just another nice performer. Came up, touched the daily, and then just consolidated for a bit and pushed. ENS, I think, has a lot right now. I mean, with the dip today, it didn't even do it. It just touched and rocketed straight back up. BNB, same thing. Looks great. Mina looks great. Near looks great. Tia, I think, still has some juice in it. Notice how it's so that you'll see this pattern present itself all the time. We've got a top here, and then we've sort of got a bottom down here. So now, because of that, we've got a nice little consolidation pattern that Tia is going to stay in for the moment. So you put this down here, or even here, and we can say, okay, up, down, down, up, down. And so once it breaks out, then Tia can go again. Most people give up when it's in this consolidation pattern, but once we break this pattern, it's beautiful because then you have it'll break the pattern and it'll just go straight up. Injective, I think it's cooling off right now. It's probably moving into a consolidation pattern as well. Like same thing here. Just kind of chilling. And then what'll happen is the EMA bands will catch up in here, and then all of a sudden it'll launch. So Solana isn't consolidating. It's created a new high or this local high. And then we got dumped on today, but it seems like it's going to push back up. Like I'll show you guys entries and stuff that I'm looking at after that. VeChain, I like AVAX. SNX has been it's starting to lose its daily trend, so I'm less interested in that. eGold, I like quite a bit. It had a really nice wick up today off of that trade. I think Optimism has a lot of potential still. And then Atom looks pretty good. Let me see what other coins you guys want me to look at. Big Time and Arkham. Yeah, gotcha. All right, let's take a look at what my entries would be for these ones. So say I would not buy on this candle. This is FOMO. What I would look at for this is I'd go to like the 4 hour. This would have been a beautiful entry here. Like what I would have done probably is set bids at the bottom of this. Typically, I'll set bids just below this EMA band, so it's the EMA 21. So that way, when it comes through in wicks, I can catch the wick and ride back up. So that would have been a nice entry. But because this is a new trend that just kind of started launching, we could probably catch a bid on the daily too. Notice how it's been so boom, catch the bid, boom, nothing much, nothing much. This one gave us the big one. So probably anticipate one more. Like I could put a bid right here, probably catch it. Any kind of bid here would have been great. Usually you can do one of two things. If you want to be safe, for lack of a better term, I would put my bids like right here. If you want to catch kind of the whole thing, then it would be like bids layered from here all the way up to here. Might put you in a good spot. You'll easy invalidation too, because if it loses this on the hourly, then well, now you're heading to the 4 hour, which is a better bid zone. But sometimes in a strong coin like this, you're not going to hit that bid zone. Render, same thing. It's pushing. I would anticipate what'll happen is we'll be here. And then all of a sudden, like we're gonna wait for this 4 hour to catch up. So that's why I have this line here. So I would imagine this band ends up somewhere around here, depending on what this does. And then that gives us a nice opportunity to bid somewhere, probably like 4.87 up to like 4.97-ish. You kind of just want to pay attention. These aren't like magical bands. It's just I use it's called multi EMA on TradingView, 13, 21, 55, 100, 200. And it kind of gives me an easy chance to catch and look at these bids in conjunction with what the RSI looks like. So it's like we had this little bull div, and then we had a nice reset here, and then that's what launched it off. TRB, similar thing. It's actually pretty close to where I would bid. TRB, I didn't get any bids on this yet, but I would bid like between 179 to like 183, maybe just a bit below it too. Matic, it's on a tear, but I would probably anticipate losing my voice still. I think I'm getting sick. But I would say, okay, if this is going to keep mooning, this thing's probably going to end up somewhere around here. So the bids are going to be between like 97, 95. Because this is a new trend, you can also catch it on the hourly. So you could anticipate this maybe a couple more candles up, and then it starts going sideways, and then it goes boop to retest that dollar zone, which would probably make sense having this 1 hour come up here and catch up. So 99 to like 98-ish, maybe could be a bid zone for that. Potentially what I look at for Matic on the 1 hour. If it's a new trend, like for example, Matic, because it just really started taking off today, then I would bid the 1 hour. If it's not a new trend and it's been trending for a while, I wouldn't bid the 1 hour. So I think the opportunity to bid the 1 hour is there on Matic. Stacks, it's going to be the similar thing. It's starting to kind of go sideways. So it'll probably, maybe it comes up, maybe it goes sideways a little, and then we catch it. And then this catches up a little bit. We bid around 157 to like 155, and it gives us a pretty good entry. ENS has already come in, it already hit the entry. So we came through, notice how it pushed all the way down. So any bids littered through here would have gotten picked up and it would have been insta profit. And so that would have been a good one. That's kind of what it looks like it might want to test it again. It's already, I mean, the hourly was great too. It's already pushing through. So maybe if it comes back and retests, I would bid like 1021 to like 1010 right now. And then my stop loss, if I do these bids, is going to be somewhere like in the middle, like down here ish. So that way it keeps it a nice little tight trade so I can catch these solid pushes. BNB, new trend. So we already started pushing. We already tested the 1 hour. It looks like it's probably going to go sideways to test it again. So we're probably anticipating this being a good bid zone again. So like 287 to 292, probably a good zone to catch something. Maybe it keeps going sideways like this. This catches up here and it's up here. But that's ultimately what I would shoot for. Mina, new trend. So I would probably bid off the 1 hour. Because it's still going, I would probably anticipate we get some bids like 133 to like 130, breakout zone somewhere around here, maybe. And then near is still fighting. I mean, if near can produce some green candles, this might actually be a really good bid zone or a good buy zone. So it's like 429 to 431 with the stop loss like around 427-ish. I mean, it makes a nice tight trade. So that way, if it does hit, take off, and actually push, it's a nice grab. What I don't like about where near is at right now is it's kind of riding this RSI line. Don't particularly like this because it's like there was no clean push and drive. It was just clean and now it's stuck. Now it's going to test it again. What I don't want to get stuck in is it just being stuck here for an eternity where it just goes like this and there's no clear direction. When you look at some of these other ones, like this one, obviously pushed and had a nice clear direction. BNB, you could argue, doesn't look great on the 1 hour. When we look at the 4 hour, it had that nice clear direction. So notice how as soon as it cleared this sort of trend zone, it had that push and then it never let up. So it's kind of something I look out for there as well. TIA, when you look at TIA, it doesn't look great. It does have a nice trend reset here, which I would anticipate what'll happen is it'll push to the 50 to test that, which will coincide with the 4 hour trend here. If we can push through that and then retest and bounce, then TIA will have a new trend and it'll look great. So that's kind of what I would anticipate and look at for that. I'm not necessarily interested in buying the bottom here. I'm interested in buying a good trade that shows that we're bullish in that environment. Same thing with Injective. I would like to see this push through the 50, retest, bounce, which will probably coincide with this 4 hour trend here. Solana is doing it right now. This is a good teaching lesson or good moment here. I actually just, before I jumped on this, I put a bid in on Solana, literally right here. So if it fails and dies, I lose too. But look at Solana. We had this sort of consolidation trend. I mean, it's still going up, but notice how the RSI is kind of creeping down. Then today it just colossally got attacked, but then it hit the 50 on the RSI and pushed back up. So we had a nice clean bounce. Now, if this peels over and dies, then we have more dumping to do. But if this can essentially cross these trend lines here, what's going to happen is this will push and then Solana will go on another leg. So that's kind of what we want to see. We want to see this open. Ideally, we'd like to see this candle close inside this range, and then we'd want to see it push through and the next candle close above, retest, drive. And then that will represent then the RSI coming up as well. So would be good bids 110, 268, 112, 737 for kind of a good zone for Sol. VeChain already kind of doing it. Notice another good teaching lesson here. We had this bear div, VeChain came down, hit the 50 in the RSI, and then pushed straight back up. And then it already pushed through. Like I won't bid on this. I'm already too late. But you could argue that this was a good trade because you could have bid in here, right? As soon as that reset happens, it gets you in a good zone to start driving up. AVAX, a little worrisome still. Like I said, it's not quite where I'd like this to be. I like that reset there. I'd like to see this over 50 and retest and drive, which will coincide with that as well. Same thing with the SNX. So a lot of these coins are in a similar situation. eGold, it just doesn't look sharp. That's what I don't like. eGold moves slow though. It's an easy coin to trade because it doesn't really move that volatilely. So it would have been like 69.96 up to like 71.13. But what I don't like is it came down and there's no like sharp drive, which tells me we may peel back over. Optimism looks good. It already cleared past. I didn't even see this, so I probably would have been on it. But it's pushed up, hit the 50, pushed up, reset. So should be good, hopefully good for another trend. Someone asked for big time. All right, let's take a look at some of the QNT. Let's open that up. Let's see. I use BingX typically just because that's where I trade. QNT looks good. I mean, the RSI tells me that we've probably got some more downside, which will be interesting because what'll happen with QNT is it had this nice drive. Now it's starting to peel over. It already kind of touched here, but the RSI is telling me it wants to come down a little more. We haven't seen a nice, solid, crisp reset yet. So what I think will happen here is it's going to push down and it'll bid off of there, and that should give us the reset. If it loses it, then obviously it dies. But if we get that nice, crisp, boom drive, then I think we're in a good spot. So I would bid on this. I mean, these will probably somewhere around like 13, let's see, 133.73 to like 139.81. We go to the 1 hour, it's already kind of losing that. So it tells me that we're going to go to that 4 hour. So I wouldn't bid the 1 hour, but I would put my bids in that zone, like here to here. We'll probably get some good entries. Easy invalidation, probably like right here. So that way I wouldn't initially set this because what'll happen is it'll wick straight through and you'll go bid, 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 stop. So I usually go bid, 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 let it come back up, then set the stop, or I'll set a time-based stop. Like if it closes below this on the 4 hour, then I'm out. But I want my stop to be below this trend because this trend's going to ride up and it's going to test it over and over again. And the stop is basically going to say, okay, if it loses this, it invalidates my trade. Let's see, ADA. ADA was looking good. It's in here somewhere. Let me know if you guys can see my screen, right? Let me know if you can't. Let's just add ADA to the watch list. All right, let's look at ADA. So ADA looks like it wants to make a move. Notice how it's doing the same thing, this little consolidation pattern. It's like maybe right there to like right here. Hasn't really up, down, up, down, not really doing much in that zone. So what looks like will happen to this one, if we're down here, is we're coming up to test that 4 hour on the RSI. And so I think this will be a pivotal zone and it's going to coincide with kind of passing this trend too. So what I would want to see is I would want to see this. We're already seeing the RSI look decently bullish, but what I wouldn't want to happen is like this, where it comes through, it passes, and then it falls straight through and just dies, which coincides with today and how nasty that was. But what I would like to see is it push through, come back and retest, and then drive, which will coincide with pushing through this. These are getting really tight. When these bands get tight, it's like a spring shot. So if it does clear, it'll come through and just launch, which is what I would kind of watch for there. So like this is super tight. So my bits would be like, I mean, I would start buying at like 0.60798, 0.60868, and then my invalidation would probably be like 0.60519 or something. But that would put me in a pretty good zone to be able to bid that. But I would watch that RSI when we start looking at like the daily. It looks like it has a little more downside to go. There's just no turnaround yet. Even with this, it still had like a peak out and then a down. So either we see this, if the 4 hour actually turns around, then we'll see this start to push up and it'll just invalidate this whole thing, or it'll push up and then down, and then it'll keep going until it hits the 50 on the daily. Then once it hits the 50 on the daily, we'll have a nice big push. If it does hit that, because it's getting pretty close to the daily too, then a really nice bid. Notice how it has this huge wick. Really nice bids would probably be somewhere around like 0.57055 up to like 0.59572. Cool. Glad you guys can see it. Worst thing is to do this whole thing and nobody can see my broadcast. All right, let's see who else has got some coins for me. Big time. Let's do big time. Just add it in here. Oh, it's already in here somewhere. There it is. All right, big time. It is, well, on the daily, it's getting pretty close. It's tried to push, but it got sandwiched in, finally pumped, and then today happened and it dumped. It's sitting just above its daily trend. If it loses this, I'd be a little bit worried that we're going to go down to this. So you just want to be careful. But with that being said, it has a decent little, I mean, I would say it would probably likely hold this support. That's also coincides with the bottom of the daily trend. So notice how we have these beautiful wicks every time it touches that. So I would anticipate it continuing to hold that because it's provided pretty nice support. I mean, you look over here, it's touched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times and hasn't broken. So that's going to be a really strong support zone. I would look at starting to bid on big time. It's just a really, it's a tough coin. So it's doing the same thing here. It's coming up, it's going to test that 50. If it pushes through, it gives us a good drive. If it doesn't and rejects and pushes down or it comes through and falls through, then it's got some more downside. It's probably going to go back and retest the lows. So what I would look at for big time would be, I would want this RSI to cross over 50 and retest just like on the other ones, which will probably coincide with coming up and testing these bands. So then that happening would put me in a buy zone somewhere probably around like 59.43 up to like 0.6018 is what I would be looking at for big time. Big thing I would pay attention to is just making sure that RSI can actually cross over. If it can't or it gets rejected, it'll probably continue to the downside. And then let's see, there was another one. ARKM, Arkham. All right, so this one, let's just look at the daily first. It looks like it's got a decent trend going. I mean, we've got a nice little bottom setup here. And obviously we've got I guess we can call the top up here. So what might happen in this coin is we're going to end up in this consolidation pattern for a bit. So you've got this that'll just ride out until eternity or until it decides to break out. So that's what I'd pay attention to. If it comes up and gets rejected off this and then bounces and touches here again, and then you've got a beautiful consolidation pattern. So then your goal is just, I mean, there's two ways to play the consolidation. Number one, you can wait for the consolidation for the 4 hour. It's already kind of caught up. That's kind of where I would have bid too. This RSI is a little bit junky, but it's not bad. Like I would have, yeah, it's a nice little consolidation. So, I mean, this is one of those where you try to hit the consolidation and it fails 45 times and you finally hit the 46th one. But what I do like is the RSI on the 50, it hit and then it reset. The only thing is it's done that before, came right back down. So that's kind of what I would pay attention to. My bids for this, I mean, kind of depends on how you want to trade this. I would have probably pushed and bid on the 0.6771 to like 0.6870 to hopefully hit this candle to launch and hopefully hit the breakout should it happen. If the breakout fails, then you've got a clean invalidation and then you come back down here. The other option is if since obviously we missed this bid, it looks like it's going to come and test the 1 hour. So then the bid would be like 0.6925 to like 0.6896. The other option, if it just launches, which I don't think it will, it seems like it just wants to consolidate and then it's got this downtrend going on. So the other option here is it's got this little downtrend that it's starting to break out of. The other option here is if it does break this, what'll happen is the next candle will open and it'll touch and either drive or it'll just keep touching for however long it takes and then eventually start pushing. And that'll be a nice little breakout of this downtrend, which would be another thing to play. So when that pushes and breaks and comes to retest, you're probably looking at like 0.6890 for that. Let's see, Link. Good old Link. All right. So Link's been consolidating for quite a bit. Let's just go to the daily. If we just get rid of all the noise, on a daily, kind of looking maybe somewhere something like this. We've been just consolidating, staying in this pattern. Every time it breaks, it fails, but it's got a clear resistance in the middle. It's got a clear top, and it's just kind of moving sideways for now. The RSI on the daily doesn't look great. I mean, we tried to break and then we failed. So a good lesson here, it had the break. And then right here, we had that clean, that touch, and then ultimately failed. Now we're coming back, not necessarily a failure yet. If this falls through, then it's definitely a failure and it's probably going to keep moving down to the bottom of this channel. If it can drive and push, then it's probably going to come back up and test this zone again. So like what I would look at for Link, it's sitting just above its daily trend too. So like if Link loses 15,020, it's going to go back down and test that bottom. So then the options are what you could, one option is to layer bids below this line. I mean, it's got some nice wicks. It's touched it a million times and hasn't broke. So it'd be like 14,054 down to like 13,641, and then you hope they get sucked up. The other option is just kind of wait, let this consolidation play out, wait for this to happen because this is happening on a lot of coins. It's coming, the RSI is coming back up to test that 50. It's going to try again, see if it can drive. That'll coincide with coming up and probably testing this zone. So you're probably looking at like 15.230, 15.339 for Link. And then once Link breaks out, still got quite a bit of upside. Like we got that little consolidation channel. So once Link breaks again, probably pushes to 18. Got like 18. We got 19 coming up on the $20 zone. And we got like 21, and it really starts cooking. Yeah, it's Hacksaw. Let's see. CKB. So the weekly looks really good on this one. We had a double test. We drive. That's a beautiful reset on the weekly. I mean, this would be a great just long-term trade. I mean, you're probably 0.003. You're probably looking at like 0.006 if you want to hold it for another 6 weeks or so. I like how the RSI looks on this one. It's a nice reset. And I like that we're crossing some of these, the EMA band here. Next target's going to be this band. It's in a clear consolidation zone that it's been in for a while. Oops. So like coins like these that are stuck in these consolidation patterns tend to be big movers. So like we're looking at something here. And then down here-ish. Just this beautiful pattern. Now it's coming up, kind of wants to cross this. And then we see if it breaks out and then it pushes to here. So it looks good on the weekly. We start looking at lower time frame. Still doesn't look bad. 4 hour. Starting to get a little cooked. It doesn't really matter though. I mean, it had a reset here and it held right off that 4 hour. Really nice bounce. Like my bids would have been right here, just layered there, which would have set me up really nicely for this. So overall, I think it looks good. It looks like even may even have a new trend starting. So you can even push that to the 1 hour and say, okay, I missed the trend push here. Maybe what'll happen now is they'll get another shot at like 0.003921 to like 0.003990 to get a good bid in. But overall, this looks pretty solid. Yeah, Link, if Link completes that, it'll launch. It's in that consolidation pattern. So I think, I mean, it looks good. Once it completes that pattern, we go from 15 to 20, 30. Link just starts taking off again. Let's see, JTO, airdrop coin. The only hard part about the airdrop coins is sometimes there's no bottom. People just keep selling it. It just sells into eternity. And I think that's the problem JTO is dealing with. When we look at it on the weekly, there's really nothing we can look at. There's no data. The daily, we got a little bit of data. The RSI doesn't really tell much. I mean, maybe let's look at the 12-hour. 12-hour, not super good. It tried to cross the 50, got rejected. So now we need this 12-hour to close. There's still not a ton of data on that. I mean, let's look at the 4-hour. 4 hours doing the same thing a lot of coins are doing. It's starting to peak back up. It's going to come back up and test. When we look at it, it's just got this downtrend that it's dealing with. Hard part about these airdrop coins is the sell pressure can be relentless. I mean, it can just be forever. The sell pressure is just soul crushing. So it's probably even one of those things to watch for a little bit. If it does break this 50, come back, retest and drive, we're probably in a good spot. But for now, it's not something I would be interested in jumping into. Oh, the JTO airdrop hasn't happened yet. I thought people got a bunch of the airdrop already for like using the protocol. All right. Yeah, I don't think it's good. Just it's not in the best position. I mean, I think, like I said, if we can cross over here and drive, we'd be good. But right here even failed. So let's see if it can do this again. If it fails again, there's really no quote unquote bottom yet. It's just a new coin. So kind of have to see how things play out. All right. Any other? Oh, nice. Cool. Any other coins y'all want me to look at? Cool. Well, I mean, with the market as a whole, it still looks pretty bullish. I mean, with what I was looking at for Bitcoin, it doesn't look terrible. I mean, when we look at the weekly, a lot of people are talking about like sell the news event with the ETF announcement coming up. We're at December 4th. We're still in this consolidation pattern. When we look at previous markets, so the 2021 bull market, I think the halving happened like May 11th. So when we come back down here to look at a similar timeline, we come back down into 2020 and we had a really good run up. December was just up only. Then January kind of peaked and then we dumped from the first couple of weeks of January and then finished dumping January 25th and then February it actually started the real bull market started. So it was just up only candles after that. And then the day before the halving, things started dumping. And then we had the second peak. When we look at, I think it was the 2017 bull market, similar situation. 2016 before the bull market. Gosh, gotta go way back. So over here, November, when we look back here, it was similar. November, December, up only. Then we hit January, had a peak, and then it came all the way back down and tested the bottom of this weekly trend, pushed back up, and then January started driving up. February dumped. March, we actually drove. So, I mean, patterns tend to be your friend in this game. So, what I would kind of be looking at for Bitcoin for this time around would probably be a similar thing unless it's proven wrong. I mean, you can say it's sell the news, but really it's just the patterns present itself multiple times over multiple cycles. So you could probably say like we have the halving or not the halving. You have the announcement happen. I think it's supposed to happen on January 9th. So right here. And then, so let's see, January 9th. So we'll say like announcement happens here. We push 47 to like 50K. And then the weekly trend's down here. It moves the weekly trend maybe up here somewhere. We come here, we push down to the bottom of the weekly trend, and then which right now coincides with like 35, maybe somewhere around 35-ish. And then ultimately by February, March, we push back up to new highs and stuff like that. That's what I think would happen following sort of the pattern from previous cycles. Obviously, there's the argument that we now have the ETF announcement, which is ultra bullish. So we just go up for the rest of our lives and Bitcoin hits $2 million and everybody celebrates and life is good. But I typically tend to follow the pattern. If the pattern breaks, then we'll adjust and modify. But ultimately, I think it would make sense for us to push to the 47 to 50 zone and then probably come back down to the bottom of the weekly trend line and then push back up after that. So it doesn't mean like we're bearish. It just means we have a correction that's followed the same thing in previous cycles. Last one, AGIX. All right, we'll do AGIX and then spell. Let's see. All right, let's check this one. Oh, there's a new coin. Okay, so weekly looks really good. It crossed over here. This was a beautiful entry. Because see what happened? We came up, the RSI crossed over 50, came to retest, didn't even give a retest, and then pushed. So like I probably would have started buying right here. And then we got the retest. My invalidation would have been below this. It was retest, retest, retest. I mean, this is a multiple week trade. It would have been buy in week 1, buy in week 2, buy in week 3, buy in week 4, and then push. But let's go look at what it looks like on the lower time frames. Still looks pretty good here. It had a little bit of a consolidation, but it was an upwards consolidation. We bounced, kind of got stuck here. Let's go down. It's in a decent trend. So, and then today, notice how it's kind of the RSI doesn't look great just because it's touched, came back, touched, came back, touched. It's the RSI is sort of consolidating here, which it's good and bad. Like we have a little bull div here, which could give us some drive. What I would have done had I paid attention to this coin is I would have bid somewhere between like 0.34276 to like 0.34953 because that's where the trend started. But what makes me a little leery is how it's came up, come down, come up, come down. And if this creates like a lower high, then we have a bearish divergence. So we could just keep doing this. That's something I would pay attention to. I would like to see it come up and then push and finally drive up and clear a lot of this junk. So notice how the bear div happened here and then it pushed it all the way back down. We don't want that to present itself again because then it gives us, we could actually dump and die. So that's what I would pay attention to there on that one. Let's see. Spell. Man, I remember Spell from the last cycle. Spell. All right. Okay, so I did look at this one. I think Spell looks really good on like the larger time frames. What I like about Spell is we've cleared the weekly kind of trend and it's starting to push back up. Uh, we've cleared the 50 in the RSI, which we've actually tested it. So we came up, we tested, drove, came through, tested, drove. It looks like it's got room to go. I think this would be like a good spot hold too, if you don't want to be in a leverage trade for like 5 weeks, because it's going to do the same thing. It's going to test and drive, test and drive. It's in a good position. It's in a good trend. You could even draw like a nice little trend line and say that it's probably going to follow this on the weekly because it's wicked off that multiple times. So then it's like same thing happens. It's push, push, drive. Maybe we go sideways, touch, push, touch, and it keeps going. So trend's good until it's broken. So I like that on the weekly. I think it looks really good there. I think it looks pretty good on the, I like that we cleared here. Like this is pivotal. The fact that we're actually crossing too is super bullish for Spell. So I like that. It's held 1, 2, 3, 4. It's tested a bunch of times off of this EMA band. So that's like the EMA 200, which to clear that usually gives us a lot of strength. And that's why we're starting to see a multiple green candle drive. So I think that's great. What I look at with that is once it finally clears that, then it's got room to move. So 3-day looks pretty good. The daily, we tested the 50 and it actually held. Now it's pushing up. Daily looks pretty good. I think we cleared this consolidation pattern. I think we're probably going to come in. Let's check the 4 hour. Yeah, now we're sitting on the 4 hour. We had a nice, so it had a drive and then it came up. It gave us an opportunity to enter, even if we're entering at this point here. Bids here would have been nice because then you have a nice validation back here. So I would have set bids on this like 4 hour to catch this trend. We have a nice little bull div here. So that could actually give us another push for a decent drive. Coming off a little bear into a bull, I think puts us in a decent zone. Notice how it's like lots of selling, then it kind of starts flattening off. So what I would anticipate has happened is it this candle's here. It's probably going to move sideways for a little bit. We already got the test here. I wouldn't be surprised if we got another one that pushed us here, which would be nice entries, and then start to see it move on another leg up. The thing I would like to see too, even would be if on the 4 hour we actually came down and touched that 50 and then wicked back, launched straight up. Because what that would tell me is it's like, okay, we have this downtrend and now we have a reset and the reset drive. So that gives us a fresh leg off the 4 hour. But overall, I mean, you could buy this spot and just chill in it and probably be fine. Doesn't seem like it's gonna die. I mean, at the worst case, we could come, I think by the time we come back and test anything down here, it's already going to be up here because I think it's going to get sucked up on the daily before it gets even close. So then like your invalidation's clean too. It's like down here, especially on spot. If you're trading perps, then my invalidation would be closer to the 4 hour. It would be like bid here, invalidation here. So, but overall, I think it looks good. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I still have some spell from Wonderland that I have to fish out of my AVAX wallet. Yeah, I think it looks great. Daily looks good. Weekly looks good. Um, as long as we don't have like a world-ending catastrophic disaster, it's starting to clear out of this consolidation, which I think should give us a pretty clean run up because you've got resistance there. It's getting rejected there, but once it clears that, it gives it the opportunity to start to maybe push to that zone. Then we've got here. So kind of the trajectory right now, this is pretty major resistance. This is the breaker where it kind of broke down. This, it started acting as this is like the consolidation resistance. So resistance, support, 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 support fell through, resistance. So now we're back. If it clears this, it'll probably have a pretty good drive up because we're getting out of this nasty consolidation pattern. And then next checkpoint is like clear this. Next checkpoint is clear this, and then it's blue skies. Doesn't even it doesn't even know what to do up here. So it would just be price discovery. Cool. That's it. I'm losing my voice. I'm gonna go drink some tea and then let me know what you guys want for next week. Just throw out what coins you want me to go over and all that stuff, and we'll make a list or join me live. I'm gonna try to do these on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock Pacific. So that way it's on a regular time, but we'll jump on, we'll go through charts, we'll see what makes sense, we'll see what doesn't make sense. I'll give you all my entries, and then you'll have the playbook for the week. Yeah, no, I mean, looking at spell, if we're at point 0.0006, what's the market cap on spell? 73 million. I mean, if it breaks this consolidation pattern, like even looking at this coin market cap chart that barely works, I mean, I would say if it breaks this consolidation pattern, it wouldn't be far off to say that Spell would come back up and test its new all-time high. I mean, its market cap is only 70 million. You could anticipate, I mean, off 70 million on a full-blown bull market. You could still get like an 8 to 10x out of this thing easily because like 70 million in a full bull market is 500 million. It'd still be a relatively decent gainer. Cool. If you guys like this, just go in the dude server and give me some fire Elmos. Let me know that you liked it. If you got some good entries off this, let me know what you entered on in there so that I know. I think this will be a lot easier. So that way I can point out the coins to look for, the watch list, and then ultimately guide us all to taking over the world. All right. I'll talk to y'all later.